I'm Scott Allen Miller. This is my life living in Leon, Nicaragua, and today we had someone on our WhatsApp group look at a property that was being listed online with a real estate agent, and they got all excited because its list price of $54,000 for an empty lot in a pretty beautiful location sounded like a great deal. They were very excited and thought they might want to buy it, but then they thought better of it and decided to ask the Expat group what valuation they might actually put on that property, and it's important to understand why we gave it the valuation that we did. So what did we give it, and was it a good deal? Are they going to move forward with it? And why is looking at property online in Nicaragua a lot like just sampling a little bit of cocaine? Because, you know, you can just try a little bit. It's not really a problem, right? We're going to answer that right after the bump. The thing about cocaine is that it's not actually that bad for you. It's pretty easy to do it once and have no major ill effects. You will not, in 10 years, suddenly have flashback to the time you had a lot of energy. You will not devastate your heart 20 years down the line or anything like that. The fear that comes with things like cocaine is, one, remembering how enjoyable it was, and two, really needing to do it again. That's where things start to become a problem. If you were to just sample it and have no desire to ever do it again, it wouldn't actually be such a bad thing. That's why we warn people about cocaine. By the time you know if you like it or not, it's too late. You need it. So you don't start sampling it because bad things happen. We all understand this with addictive drugs, but when it comes to looking at real estate online, we think of it very differently, but the effects are exactly the same. As soon as you start looking at property online, a couple things happen. One is you become addicted to the idea that you can gather information in this way, which you cannot do. It is not information, it is misinformation. The second thing is that it becomes very exciting, and once you've done it once, well, you just want to do it again, and you start developing patterns in your brain that change you. And that's what cocaine does. That's what addiction does, right? When we're dealing with addiction, we're dealing with your brain starts to say, I need this. Now, in the case of chemical addiction, we're dealing with actual chemical changes in your brain. And when we're dealing with things like shopping online addiction, we're just simply taking a vice, a desire that we have that is not good for us, and it becomes fulfilling. It gives us an endorphin boost or whatever, right? I don't know what those chemicals are. It does this thing that makes us feel good, and it makes us excited, and we feel like we're gathering information. And humans can't do this. You can't tell yourself, this is false information, I'm not actually gaining from it, but I'll just look. You can't do that. Your brain doesn't work that way. Yours doesn't, mine doesn't. I can't go do this. No one knows Nicaraguan real estate more than I do. No one talks about it more than I do. No one warns people about these scams and misinformation and fake pricing more than I do. Literally, no one in the history of the country has warned more people about this than me. And I am not an exception to this rule, nor are you. There is no chance that you, even if you had 10 times the experience and knowledge that I have, could you possibly reliably look at property online and not have it create mental pathways that take you out of a smart buying place? Your brain cannot do that. You have to accept that before you move on. So now that you understand that the reason we warn people is not because looking at a picture of a house online is somehow bad for you, not because we don't want you to know what houses might look like in Nicaragua. It's because we know reliably from thousands of people with no exceptions, and there's no chance you're the exception. There's no exception, right? No exception means you're not the exception. That if you do this, you will start to gather misinformation and lose grasp of reality. And the only thing you may have is a grasp of reality, right? If you've never been to Nicaragua or whatever country you're dealing with, and you've never actually investigated real estate or anything of the sort, the one thing you have to cling to is that you have no idea what the value is. So you should know that when you look at a property online, if we were being logical, if we were smarter than ChatGPT, right, because ChatGPT is insane, but if you were smarter than an AI, you'd be able to logically tell yourself, I'm about to receive completely gibberish information, and I have no possibility of evaluating if it's a good price or a bad price. That's what logic should tell you. It's the one thing you have to cling to. So you should be able to bring up a listing and look at it online and say, interesting, the number they list is this. I wonder if that is above market, below market, good price, bad price, but I sure don't know, so I can't use it in any way. It is a meaningless number to me. That's what should happen. But your brain won't let that happen. It will always try to find a frame of reference, and it will use where you're coming from. Wow, where I'm coming from, that would be a good price if this plot of land and all the things around it were transported to a completely different place and were not the thing that we're talking about at all. If my peas and mashed potatoes were actually a tomahawk steak, then this price would be amazing. But it's not. It's peas and mashed potatoes. And you don't know what they cost because you've only been buying steaks. Right? Yeah, this is healthier. This is what you should have. For sure. But you don't know what it costs if you've never bought it. Engaging the price of steaks doesn't lead you to know what mashed potatoes should cost. Right? So no amount of what it would cost if it wasn't what it is matters. Comparing it to the price of land in your head is very similar to looking at a price of land and going, that's really reasonable compared to the price of my last pickup truck. Clearly, if we said that, you'd go, that makes no sense. But that's exactly what's happening. You're comparing it to something it isn't, to something it is not comparable to. It feels, when we're comparing a plot of land in Nicaragua to a plot of land in America or Canada or Western Europe, that because it's real estate, that there's some comparison that we can make, but you can't. It does not work that way. When I went to look at land in Romania, you know what they said? We'll give you the land. Who cares? We got plenty of that. It's free. Well, that really changes a lot of things and skews how you think about living. Well, suddenly the land isn't the factor. Well, when the land isn't the factor, when you're looking at other places and the only thing you're looking at buying is land, you clearly can't possibly have enough information to know. I could go sell you land in Romania for $100,000. And a lot of Americans go, that's a great deal. And when they get there, they find out land's free, right? So not everywhere in Romania, not like in the city, but in villages, right? People are like, yeah, enough to build a house, that's free. So this perspective cannot be there, but your brain will always, because it's what a brain does, right? It has this thing, it has to find as closest comparable thing that it can come up with and try to rationalize or reason whether this is a good deal or not, whether it's something you would want or not. It tries to evaluate it. And whether you want it to or not, even if you have all that logic that I just gave you, even if you have all that logic that I have, even if you're me, I'm going to look at it and my brain is going to try to say, well, maybe this location is different. Maybe this is a good or bad deal here. Maybe this is, and it just starts doing that. Our brains start to try to figure out whether this is good or not. And as it does that, if you look at then two properties, it starts to compare them to each other, even though both are completely fake. Now, what we could do to combat this is we could go make another website that lists loads of properties that don't really exist but look reasonable and put prices on them that are insanely low, right? Full beach lots for $15,000 on the sand, right? Entire hotels for $35,000, right? Start posting those everywhere so that people go, oh my gosh, I could buy a hotel for $35,000. Hint, no, you can't. But that's as far unreasonable in the low direction as what people are posting in the other direction are. Right? People are saying, oh, this is worth $1 million. No, it's worth $150,000, maybe $200,000. Right? I know a place that's worth about $250,000. They list it for $2 million on our beach. At $2 million, no one has talked to them in years. At $250,000, we wouldn't buy it. Right? And we know the place. And they've not had a bite in a decade. Right? And that's when people post these high prices. Often they wait a decade or two. I know lots of places that have waited 20 years. And when they finally sell, it's at a fraction of what they're asking for. They end up selling 20 years later at the real price. But in this situation, your brain is your enemy. Your brain desires to look at property, and it desires to make completely false connections. Those synapses are going to fire. Those neurons are going to connect, and bad things are going to happen. Just like when you sample Coke and you go, well, that one time, I can just say no the next time, but your brain starts to go, no, I need that. And it becomes an addiction even after just one sample for many people. Not everyone. In the case of Coke, in the case of looking at properties, it's everyone, right? 100 times more addictive than cocaine. Once you're looking, you can't stop. And you can't tell when your brain is starting to make those false connections. It will just start skewing the numbers in your brain. It'll start making you feel like you've done research. Even though you've done the opposite, right? You've done anti-research. You've made yourself less knowledgeable because when you started without having looked at anything, the one thing you were sure of is that you didn't know. But now, once you've looked at one bit of completely false information, you have an inkling that maybe you know something. And as you look at another and another and another, no matter how much you say, I don't know anything, your brain starts to go, no, I think I figured something out. It's irrational. Our brains are not good in this way, but it is the brains we have, and we need to learn to work with them, right? I used to work in a hedge fund, and one of the things that we worked very, very hard on was psychological studies, because humans are fallible, right? And understanding how all humans are weak, where we're bad, and understanding how individuals are specifically bad are things that were really critical. We weren't one of those places where we celebrated people's strengths. We looked to guardrail people's weaknesses. And one of the things that made it a great place to work, there was a lot of things that made it an awful place to work, but one of the things that made it a great place to work is that we all could feel good being honest about our weaknesses. Here's the thing I'm terrible at. Great. You know what? You're terrible at this. So when you need to do this, we're going to get this guy who's not terrible at that, and he's going to help you so that you don't fail, right? That was an important thing. And knowing that when we're stressed, we need to go, wait, I'm stressed. Whatever I'm about to do is bad. Maybe I'll do the right thing, but it'll be random, because when stressed, when scared, when panicky, our brains stop being rational, stop giving us a chance to apply rationality. They're always non-rational, but you can stop and work really hard to force rationality when you're not panicked. But when you're panicking, rationality is out the window. So learning to recognize panic and simply have the response of, I have to step away. I'm under duress mentally for whatever reason, right? It could be stress at home. It could be stress at work. It could be you're worried about your job. It could be you're worried about your kid that's at the doctor's finding out if they have a fever, right? Whatever it is, you have this power to go, hey, I got to raise my hand. I'm stressed. I'm not in a good situation, right? So this is stuff that I'm trained on. I'm trained with SEALs. I'm trained with people who testify in front of Congress. I'm trained with the CIA, right? I have done training in this stuff. And the thing is not making you able to do these things. It's making you able to stop yourself putting yourself in a situation you know you won't be able to resist, right? When you go through extreme training on this, you do not learn how to use cocaine and not get addicted. You learn that no matter what you tell yourself, addiction is going to happen. And avoid the situation where addiction will happen rather than be, Superman and somehow be more powerful than the drugs. That's not how it works, right? That's how people fool themselves. And that's what people, when they're looking at real estate, you're saying, I'm stronger. My brain is different than all the other humans. It's able to do these things. And it's not, right? Strength comes from recognizing your weaknesses, not overcoming weaknesses that are impossible to overcome. These are fundamental limitations of humanity. Now, of course, the thing that people are going to say is, always, but there's going to be an exception. Either I'm the exception and all rules of psychology don't apply to me, I'm literally Superman, or more often, people assume that they are going to randomly stumble on online information that is not misleading for some reason that makes no sense whatsoever. They're going to find someone who is unethical and dishonest in a completely different way that is not self-serving just to help them out, and they're going to stumble on it, right? Which is never the case. And the more you think that, the more it is not going to happen, right? So I want to talk real quickly, and we just put this in the WhatsApp group, but I want to talk about why you can never find a real estate listing online here in Nicaragua and most places, right? The United States is a bit different because of very strong publicly available comps. You're able to control what goes online within reason, and we all have a lot of training on that, so we're mostly able to handle it. Here in Nicaragua, we have no comps, there's nothing to ground numbers, so there's no way, none, absolutely none, for someone to get a grounding of what prices should be so that they can evaluate things they see online. Until you're here, boots on the ground, walking around, building over a long period of time, a good reference, finding out what people are asking will lead you astray rather than giving you a starting point to figure out whether it's a good price. Right, so even me being here for years, I gave it about 6 years before I looked at any prices on anything, right? And that was just me accidentally protecting myself, but it did a lot to protect me, right? I already knew about all the false prices. I already knew what to look out for. I was really confident in that. I knew some things that people were getting, so I was able to still be in a very dangerous position, but better, right? So, one, if someone is posting online, they're doing a process that Nicaraguans, that savvy buyers, Nicaraguans or expats, won't do, right? None of us who are real estate investors in Nicaragua would ever go online to look at property. It's not going to happen, right? So they're already filtering out all of the savvy buyers, and they're looking for the person who believes they're the exception, right? So this is like, millions of people get an email from a Nigerian prince who has $100 million that he needs to launder through your bank account, and he's going to give you a big percentage for laundering his ill-gotten gains. They send that out. It is so obvious. Every single person, including the ones who respond to it, know that it's spam and that they're being scammed. They don't want savvy people who know they're being scammed and recognize it. They want people who go, I'm being scammed by the most textbook scam there possibly is, but I'm sure I'm smarter than them, and this one's the exception. I'm going to respond anyway, right? The I'm sure this is an exception thing is exactly what they want, because once you think you're the exception, they've got you, right? You've already snorted Coke 20 times at that point. You're way past being in control. So you've got some combination of things is the exception going on in your brain. The second thing is they're almost always working with a real estate agent. No individual knows how to, nor is it practical, put a property online. So you've contracted someone. We've got lots of videos as to why there are problems with real estate agents here, why they don't add value, why they add tons of risk, and why they add tons and tons of cost. That real estate agent is never going to let them put a low price online. Once they're going down that path, these are people who are trained to know that the Nigerian prince scam is already underway. They've already eliminated the savvy buyers, and so everyone who's looking thinks they're the exception. Why would they ever show you a legitimate price? Of course they wouldn't, because they're paid by how much they can get the price up. And so the seller wants to get the price as high as possible, and then the real estate agent wants to get it even higher than possible, right? That's how it works. They're in this to get the price as high as reasonable, and that's their job. That is the job of the seller to get as much as he can get. It is the job of the real estate agent to get him more than he could get on his own. That's literally their jobs. And if either of them do anything else, they're nuts. Right? If the real estate agent doesn't get the price up as high as they can, they're scamming the person that they're working for, because that is their job, is to get the price up. And if the seller doesn't get as much as they can get, they're just crazy. They're just giving the property away, at least part of it. Right? So those things are never going to change. Then the real estate agent themselves adds cost, and a lot more than an agent in the United States. Typically about 10%, whereas an agent in the U.S. typically is like 2.5%, and they're working to get that down. So they need, one, to get the price really high to justify the effort, because the prices are so low here that you really don't make money selling real estate. And two, they add a huge buffer onto it, and that's if they're doing everything by the book. In many cases, the real estate agents end up sometimes getting 100% of value, right? They double the prices of things and take home huge amounts. That's not every time and not every agent, but it can happen. So you've got guaranteed huge bad financial things with big potential risks added on top. Those things are every time. There won't be an exception to them because they make no sense to have an exception. No one is going to put in all the effort and all the problems of advertising themselves as gringo pricing you, going into the things that set off all the red flags and alarms that keep the locals and savvy buyers from looking, and then not put in an inflated price. It doesn't make any sense that they would do this to themselves, that they would cut off their liquidity from the nation. If they had a valid price, they would want people to actually feel like it could be a valid price, right? If you're going to sell something at what it's worth, you want the people who know that that's a good price to come out and buy it so you can sell it, right? You want it to move. When you put things on these websites, you're letting everyone know, all the locals, all the savvy buyers are like, whoa, that's something to stay away from, or definitely don't pay the price that they're advertising. So if you were giving a good price, you would avoid that for sure. Bad things would happen. Then you're also going through all this effort. You're putting it on a website. You're dealing with a real estate agent. You're creating this overhead. You're not going to spend all that money, spend all that time and effort when it would hurt you unless you're inflating the price dramatically. And so obviously you're always going to do that. It is completely illogical. It is bordering on insane for someone to do something else. It just doesn't make sense at this time. In the future, we may be more digitized. Nicaragua is going to move towards a more digital future, obviously. But at this time, that is not how everything works in Nicaragua. Nicaragua. So many things are not digital, and when they are, they're very different in how they have digitized than North America, because they're doing it at a different time in a different era. So you must approach that stuff, one, warily, and two, with an open mind that things are just going to work differently. And importantly, when the time comes, it will be a completely different animal than it is in North America. But it is not here yet. We don't know what that future is going to look like. So thank you for joining me. Like and subscribe if you'd like to help support the channel and help support protecting other people, locals and expats, from being taken advantage of, whether someone is actually scamming them or someone is just inflating prices and hoping that you don't know. Whatever it is, we're here to help protect you. We want you guys to have a positive experience. We want good people to come and explore this wonderful country and fall in love here, or figure out it's not for them and not come here and be sad because they chose the wrong place. We want to empower you to make good decisions. That's why we're here, so you can support what we're doing by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Scott Allen Miller. It comes directly to me. It's like Patreon. If you put messages in there, I'll hopefully see them someday, but I'm really bad about looking there. I have ways to contact me if you need to. Get in the show notes. Anything you need to contact me is down there. Also, we have a GoFundMe for my producer, Marcela, who is stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma. Really appreciate everyone who is helping her out. If you'd like to donate to her, the GoFundMe information is down there. She is now in radiation therapy. She has done her chemotherapy run for 6 months, so we're waiting for feedback on to how that is going. As my regulars know, we talk about it every day. And of course, if you give that thumbs up, share on social media, tell someone about the show, I will see all of you tomorrow.